Hello and welcome to our Frogs Wellington webinar. So what we're trying to do today is give you some ideas about the next steps in your career, and I'll be doing interview preparation. So, and if you've got any questions, just come back to us in the chat and we'll round those out at the end of the discussion. So now let's start off with what's happening in the Wellington market. So just leave. So I'm not sure if we're still going here or not. I'm just going to wing it anyway. So the first slide we've got is one where we're looking at the unemployment rates in Wellington and compare that to New Zealand. Some really interesting information. If we look back to 2014, where the rates were about 6%, and looking back into now, so Wellington is tracking just a little bit below the national average, which is really low at the moment. And going on to the next slide, we're looking at the Wellington unemployment rates. So with that, if we look at June 2023 in Wellington, we were 3.2, 2022, 3.2, and the historic 10-year low is 3.1. So we're about track on that in the Wellington market according to those stats. Going on to the next one, if we're looking at the job vacancies. So January 2021, 175,000, went all the way up to 266,000. So in July 2022, and then July 2023, it's at 193,000. So a great increase, and then quite a strong trend down in those sort of numbers. Looking at the filled jobs changes by industry, that's really interesting reading because there's been a lot of talk about the increase in size of the government sector. If we look at that compared to, say, healthcare, that was up 4.5%. Accommodation and food services, 7.1%. Government and public administration and safety, 6.2%. Manufacturing 3.2%, transport 7.2%. So the government sector actually is pretty much reflecting what's happening in other parts of the market. And if we're looking at this, I thought was quite interesting to look at. So people employed by age group in the Wellington region. So biggest, by far the biggest grouping is the 25 to 54-year-old groups with 202,000. Then old people like me, 55 and above, 76,000, and then the 15 to 24-year-olds, 55,000. So that does reflect the kind of market that we're in Wellington, where it's a lot more in the middle aged groups, really. So not so many old people like me, not so many young people. I think there's a lot more people perhaps at tertiary and other training institutes. So that's kind of the stats. And if we update it now, if we look across what's happened this year, just anecdotally, so what we've found is that the in the contracting and consulting kind of opportunities that's been reducing contract numbers, that as well, and there's going on on in the background there. That's likely to continue for a bit until the government's been formed, the ministers have been appointed, and then from there, things will get a better sense of what's going on. But certainly a lot of pressure on the government sector agencies about their recruitment, who they're bringing on board, what kind of opportunities they are. So that's been interesting to watch, and I've been through these cycles a couple of times now. So we will see a bit of a hiatus until the government's formed, and then where the priorities are going to be going. The National League government certainly has made their view of where they want to take the market and the government agencies. So there's likely to be that push down still on the contracting consulting space and more on permanent and fixed term roles. So recent weeks also, because of the election, we've seen a bit of a pause, people holding, organisations going, oh, we've got this role, but we're going to wait until we see what happens and get the direction from the new minister. So that's happened quite a bit, though there are still opportunities, and we are still working with clients on live roles at the moment, people being interviewed. So it's not a complete pause by any means, but it is one where there is pressure and uncertainty in the market. So it's going to be interesting. So the government has to be formed by the 21st of December by statute. So hopefully it'll be well before that, and then we'll get some idea before Christmas. Otherwise, that Christmas period will be quite quiet. I think possibly, we're not sure, but there could be some real pressure on full-time equivalents, like there might be a bit of a hiatus in employing people. Getting sign-offs for roles could be more interesting as well. So we're still not sort of certain about what's going to happen there. So interesting times for us all at the moment. So now I'd like to introduce Chitra. She's going to talk to us about CVs. Chitra, are you there?
Thanks, Peter. So I'm going to be giving off some CV and social media tips, and let's start off with some CV tips. So creating an effective CV is crucial for job seekers. It serves as a primary tool for presenting your qualifications and experiences to potential employers. Some things to keep in mind when creating a CV would be, well, first and foremost, tailor your CV for each job application. Customize your CV to match the specific job that you're applying for, highlighting the skills and experience most relevant to the position. Then choose the right format. That means either chronological, functional, or a combination of those formats. Select the one that best suits your career history and the job you're seeking. Then highlight your skills. Create a section that lists your key skills and strengths, and you can give examples of those as well. That's entirely up to you. Then you can showcase your work experience. Of course, that's very important. List your work history in reverse chronological order. Most recent job first. Include the name of the company, your job title, dates of employment, and a brief description of your responsibilities and accomplishments for each position. Quantify your accomplishments as well. Whenever possible, include specific measurable achievements, such as if you're in a sales role, you can say something like increased sales by 20% in the first quarter, or if you're in a managerial position, you can say something like managed a team of 10 employees. Include relevant education. List your educational background, including degrees you hold, the name of the institution, graduation dates, and any academic honors and awards. You can also add additional sections depending on your background. You can add certifications, licenses, volunteer work, publications, or relevant projects. Keep it concise, clean, and professional. Aim for a CV that is typically 1 to 2 pages in length. If you have an extensive career history, be concise and focus on the most relevant information. Your CV should be easy to read, so use a clear, legible font, consistent formatting, and appropriate margins. Avoid using too many different fonts or colors. Then proofread carefully. Avoid typos and grammatical errors by proofreading your CV multiple times. You can even ask a friend or a family member to review it as well. Be honest, so always be truthful on your CV. False information can damage your credibility and harm your chances of landing the job. Update your CV regularly. So it's really good to keep your CV up to date with your latest accomplishments and experiences. So it's ready when you come across a new job opportunity that you'd like to apply for. Now let's move on to some social media tips. Social media can be a valuable tool for job seekers to enhance their job search and personal branding. Some tips on how to effectively use social media are: the first, clean up your profiles, review and update your social media profiles, ensuring that the public content presents a professional image. Remove any inappropriate and unprofessional posts and photos, particularly on professional social media sites like LinkedIn. Use a professional profile picture. Choose a high quality professional headshot, such as your profile picture. It's the first impression employers will have of you if they look up your social media profiles. Optimize your LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn is a very powerful tool for professional networking and job searching. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is complete, including your work history, skills, and a compelling summary. Connect with professionals in your field and join relevant groups. Showcase your skills and accomplishments. So highlight your achievements, skills, and experiences in a way that demonstrates your value to potential employers. Use quantifiable metrics when possible to showcase your accomplishments, as you might in your CV. Share industry related content. Regularly share articles, posts, and updates related to your field of interest. This helps establish you as a knowledgeable and engaged professional. Then there is to actively engage with your connections by commenting on and sharing their posts. This can help you build meaningful professional relationships. You can follow companies you're interested in working for in job boards to stay updated on job openings and industry news. You can seek recommendations and endorsements. So you can encourage your colleagues, mentors, and supervisors to provide recommendations and endorsements on your LinkedIn profile. These testimonials can validate your skills and abilities. Next is to maintain a consistent online presence by regularly updating your social media profiles and sharing valuable content. This shows dedication and engagement in your field. Finally, stay informed, stay up to date with trends and best practices in social media and job searching. Platforms evolve and your approach should too. Lastly, if you have been watching today and are looking for your next opportunity in Wellington, or perhaps you have any further questions about anything I've talked about today, I would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with me by phone or email with the details on the screen now, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn or through the Frog Recruitment website. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra. That's really good advice. It's interesting when we see some people's CVs and they don't really tell much about the story of the person. Sometimes they can be too informal, other times missing information. And I think the chronological part that you had there, make sure you got your dates. And so if there's any gaps, explain what those are. That's really important because that'll be first thing that a hiring manager will look at and go, oh, you're missing 6 months, 2 years ago, what were you doing? So you're better off to cover those in your CV. I think also making sure you got that personal touch too, rather than being just ultra clean and too professional. You want to stand out, and I like what you said about the achievements, and I think things where you've got awards are really important as well. And Pat's put a little bit about what you do in terms of your personal life. You know, are you into team sports, or what are your interests that helps you be remembered by the client? So thank you for that. And I couldn't stress more fully about checking your social media, because at times, like on LinkedIn, sometimes you get these pictures and someone's playing golf or they're wearing sunglasses and you can't see their face. Yeah, hiking. Like LinkedIn is a professional thing. You need to make sure that the photography is appropriate. The other side is to make sure your other social media channels are appropriate as well. I'd be careful about what you show on your other social media in terms of the public domain as well, because that is one avenue that a prospective employer may well look at what's on your social media to see, is everything kosher in your background? Are you doing appropriate social things, or have you got some sort of nefarious thing going on in the background? So really important to pull that all together. So thank you, Chitra. That was great. So if you want to get hold of Chitra, you've had the information there, and please, if you've got any questions, come back in the comments and the Q&A. We'll come back and go to those. So now we're going to continue on with Zaf. He's going to discuss about how to deal with a recruitment agency. And again, this is part of one of your marketing channels when you're looking to look for a new opportunity. Recruitment agency is one of your channels, and engaging with them in a good, appropriate manner is really important. So off to Zaf.
Kia ora, everyone, and thank you to Peter and Chitra for that very useful information. Now, I am excited to firstly introduce myself. As Peter said, my name is Zaf, and I'm going to be talking to you a bit about working with recruitment agencies. And I thought this was an appropriate topic, given that both as a candidate as well as as an employee, I've worked at a few recruitment agencies in my time. Some great, some good, some not so good, and ultimately learned a lot along the way, and hopefully I can share that with you and it'll prove to be useful. I'm going to start off by, I guess, just busting a myth. There's a common misconception about what recruitment agencies and recruiters themselves actually do. We are not there to help people find jobs. We actually work in the interest of our clients that are looking to hire somebody quite specific with a unique skill set, find the best person for that role, and it's our job to go out there and find that person for them. So while there might be overlap where somebody is looking for a job at the same time that we are working on a specific job for a client, and we can achieve some success there and match the job seeker to the right role, we are working for our clients to make sure that we can find the best or most appropriate person for that specific role. There's multiple recruitment agencies. You don't have to look too far in Wellington to find yet another recruitment agency, and I guess that's a reflection of quite a buoyant market and lots of jobs being out there and people needing support for those jobs. But it is important for you to make sure that when you are considering which recruitment agency might be the one for you, which would be the best one to hitch your wagon to or partner with, that you are comfortable with the way that they work. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking that question. I've got it a few times, and to be honest, I'm appreciative when I get asked the question of, all right, well, how do you work at Frog, or what's your process? And I think anybody who is not willing to kind of explain the process and how we work, that might raise some questions. But I'm sure you'll find that across multiple recruitment agencies, the process might differ, but the building blocks will always be the same as to how recruitment agencies work with their clients as well as their candidates. And yeah, go ahead and just ask that question, get a gauge for how they work, and see if the recruitment agency that you are considering is the most appropriate one for you to be working with. And guess the third bit of advice the third thing that I wanted to share with you about recruitment agencies is, I guess, the publicity of the hiring organization. Now, sometimes you might see, hey, there's a specific named organization and they are looking for position X. So you know who's hiring and you know the position that they're looking for. Other times you might just see the position publicized without a mention of who the actual hiring manager or who the hiring organization is. Now, the reason for that, it's not a mistake. The reason for that is that in some instances, recruitment agencies will have really strong relationships with specific clients, with specific organizations, and they will be relied on to go in and seek and find the best person for all the jobs that they may have. In other instances, hiring managers or organizations might prefer to go to market. And when they go to market, they might push that out to a few different agencies to see, to try and get the best response and the quickest response. So it's imperative that for a recruitment agency, we work at speed. And This is why if you get into a conversation with a recruitment agency where they have not listed the name of the hiring organization, while to you it might seem a bit odd, there is a plan in place, and the recruitment agency would be looking to work with people that that have a vested interest in securing that role, that have some skin in the game, and aren't just out there trying to apply for every single job that they see. So when you do see an unnamed organization that is hiring through a recruitment agency, don't be scared about not knowing who that organization is. Feel free to ask, but you might be met with something along the lines of, hey, I'd really like to get into a conversation with you, have a bit of a chat, see if it might be the right role for you first, and then we'd be happy to share that information. And that's done so that we as recruitment agencies don't go down every single rabbit hole of all the job seekers that might be interested, and instead we rather focus on the ones that that show an inclination to being very interested in this particular role and wanting or believing that they have the history, experience, and skill set to match that role, regardless of who the employer might be. Moving on to the advice stage. Do your research. As I mentioned earlier, there's quite a few recruitment agencies out there, and not all of them are going to work in the same industry. So it is important to make sure that any recruitment agency that you want to reach out to is going to be the recruitment agency that can best support you on your job search. So if you work in a manufacturing or supply chain and you're reaching out to recruitment agencies that focus on legal or financial recruiting, that's not going to be a good match. That's not going to be a good use of anybody's time, as ultimately they just won't be able to help you out. Compared to an agency that does work in the industry in which you are looking for a job. So it is always good to do a bit of research. It should be easily identifiable on recruitment agency websites as to what the industries are that they focus on, but also just by looking at specific adverts that might be posted by that agency, you'll start to get a gauge of what the industry is that they mainly focus on. And the same would also go for the actual specific recruitment consultant. So not every recruitment consultant works on every type of job and across every industry. Generally, they would specialize. So it might be somebody focuses on temp, somebody focuses on perm jobs, somebody focuses on financial, and somebody else on the legal side of things. So do also just make sure that you are dealing with the right person within a recruitment agency. So you found out that, hey, this is the best recruitment agency. I think they're the best suited for what I want to achieve. Then take it that next step further and see, all right, who's the best person within that organization to actually be dealing with, where I can really maximize my job seeking potential. And because there are a variety of recruitment agencies, while the building blocks of the process will be the same, they will differ from recruitment agency to the next recruitment agency. So it is very helpful for you to be flexible and be adaptable with that process as you do more work with a specific agency or recruiter. Being flexible, showing that you can work with a recruitment agency, is also an indication to the client that you are flexible and adaptable, and that you would actually be potentially suitable to work with that organization. If the recruitment process doesn't quite agree with you, then perhaps this agency or that role that you are applying for or interested in might not be the best one for you. Showing that flexibility and adaptability is going to be a great way to get the most collaborative relationship out of a recruitment agency that you can. And lastly, before I pass over, know what role you want. Now, being very flexible and being open to every type of job can be useful, but that also means there's a lot of targets to hit, and it can become tricky as a recruitment consultant to be able to focus in or zone in on what's that ideal job, or what's the one that really makes you tick. There's too many jobs going at any one time to be talking about everything. So if you can enter a relationship with a recruitment agent with that understanding of what is the ideal role that I'm looking to secure, that will give you a much speedier and more collaborative result, because you can get straight to the point instead of having to kind of waft through what jobs aren't suitable versus which jobs may be suitable. You can just go straight to the point and make sure that you're only really talking about jobs that are suitable, and that you're using both your time and the time of that recruiter effectively. And that brings me to the end of my little tidbit. So I hope this information does become useful either now if you're job searching, or the next time that you decide you'd like to search for a job through a recruitment agency. Wish you all the best for that job search, whenever it may be. And if you are specifically interested in government jobs, which is where I specialize, please do email me a copy of your CV and we will take it from there. CV should include a mobile number, so I can either email you back or decide to give you a call from there. My details are on screen, so shouldn't have any issues getting that across to me if you are interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaf. One thing I'd just like to clarify there is, one, I'm Italian, you're not. Your hands are going more than mine were on that whole thing. So, but about the client-candidate relationship. So the client does pay us. So that's how we make money, by putting people into roles. We do work very hard to make sure that the fit is really good for the candidate as well. So decided thing. And we also work with some candidates, and I try and identify proactively opportunities for them. And that's in particular if there's a very specific skill set that they have, which is hard to find. So with that kind of opportunity, we might look at proactively marketing that candidate to prospective employers. So it's very much making sure that we've got a very strong client brief, we know what we're looking for, and then making sure that the candidates that we present are strong for that, and it's a really good opportunity for the candidate as well. So it's not just a one-sided thing by any means. So thanks for that, Zaf. Really appreciate that. So get hold of Zaf if you are interested. Send him your CV in the government space. And I see we've got a few questions there coming in. So thank you for that. We'll come back to that in the Q&A. Now we're off to talk to Jack. Jack's going to give us some ideas about interview prep. So this is really important. You've got your story around your CV, you've got your application going into the role, and then it's about how do you present yourself in the interview, which is really vital. So I'm looking forward to see what Jack has to say.
Yeah, kia ora everyone. I'd like to thank Peter for passing me on there, and also Zaf and Chitra for their very useful information. So cheers for that, guys. But today I'd like to share some tips that'll help you prepare for and hopefully nail your job interview. Job interviews can be nerve-wracking, but with the right prep, you can boost your confidence and increase your chances of landing that dream job. The first tip I have today is to do your homework on the organisation. It's key to start by researching the company's values, their mission and achievements, and that shows that you've invested time into understanding the company's culture and goals. It's also a really good idea to have an understanding of why you're interested or passionate within the company. For your personal reasons, and you can be asked that in an interview as well, and it's good to explain why you have a passion for that company. Secondly, you want to prepare your personal elevator pitch, and here you can identify up to 5 selling points based on the job listing that is specific to the job itself. So you want to obviously match the job requirements to your pitch. So for example, if you're looking for someone with strong stakeholder engagement skills, you want to provide an example of where you've used stakeholder engagement and what the result was from that, what you learned from it, how you grew, and how that experience is key in your learning process, and how you can take that skill into the role. You also want to highlight your strengths. So you don't want to exaggerate or lie about your current skills, but you want to be sure to highlight those areas of expertise, in that way putting your best foot forward. If you're asked about your weak spots, it's key to be truthful about that and outline those and explain how you compensate for these gaps, how you make up for that, and how you're keen to develop in that area and continue learning and progressing. you don't want to get overly worried by the weakness question. Often experienced managers understand that no candidate is perfect. So go in there and be confident. Fourth tip is to prepare answers for common interview questions. Now, there's a few categories of questions such as CV related, behavioural and personality questions. When it comes to behavioural questions, a good tip to use is the STAR method. Now, STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. So the situation is, where you are at the time, what sort of environment you're in. The task is what you're doing. So, it could be you've got a ton of priorities that you've got to tick off the list, and you're quite stressed out about it. The action is what you're going to do, what you actually do about it. So you might, for example, make a list of priorities and order them in such a way that it's the high priorities come first and you prioritize them. And then the R is the result. What is the result of this action? So, hopefully, if you've done it right, it comes out the other end and you got all those high priority things done first and you work down the list and everything flowed as it should. You also want to take a breath before answering a question. So this is actually what Peter taught me when I was first getting into interviewing. And it's when you get asked a question, it's critical not to rush into an answer and sort of start blabbering on about something that isn't relevant. It's good to sit back, take a breath, think about what you're going to say, and then go ahead and answer that question effectively. And it's also key to answer the actual question. It is easy to ramble on. Trust me, I've done it before, and get carried away with what you're talking about and not actually answer the question that's been asked. So I think it's key to not ramble and make sure you're answering that question that's been asked. The fifth tip I would say is actually just to do a mock interview with a friend, a family member, and just go through the interview process as well as you know it and what you think might unfold in front of you, and present yourself with a few different question types and work on articulating your responses, including examples, improving your body language, and just working through different situations that could happen on their day of interview. And the sixth tip I have is to prepare questions to ask the interviewer. Now, this is to show your interest in the company and get across to them that, yeah, you really are interested and you have you want to learn more and get stuck into that. So examples could be asking about the challenges of the role, how they measure success, or where that certain team within the company wants to be in 5 years, or the company's goal in 5 years, just to get a little bit more understanding and show that you're keen to join for the long run and learn about it. Another simple one is dress code and timing. It can be a very overlooked thing, but it is very crucial to how the interview is going to go. So follow suggested dress codes if they're provided, or you could ask, but if in doubt, it's always better to be overdressed than underdressed. So, you can't go wrong with business pants and a button-up long-sleeve shirt instead of rocking up in some jandals and a pair of shorts and singlet or something like that. But it is a common thing that happens. People sometimes get that wrong. So it's cool to tick that off and make sure that's under control. Make sure you know where you're meeting and what time, so you can plan how you're getting there in terms of transport. And you know exactly where you're going to. There's nothing worse than showing up at a venue that's where you're not supposed to be. And you also want to get there about 15 minutes early so you can get in, sit down, calm down, breathe, and prepare for the interview itself. It's also good to be polite to everyone you encounter when you first get there and greet the interviewer with a handshake and a good old smile. Lastly, the tip from me is to be yourself and relax. Remember that you want to be hired for who you are, and not someone that you're pretending to be or someone that has skills that you don't have. It wants to be a good fit, like mentioned before, between client and candidate. And I think in that reasoning, it's really, really important to be who you are, relax, and answer to your best ability. But yeah, those are the main tips that I can have going into it. But yeah, what I can say in conclusion is preparation is key. But I hope you've taken something from these tips and ready to ace your next job interview. If you have any questions, or you're currently looking for your next business support, accounting, or finance opportunity in Wellington, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. My contact details are on the screen below, and you can also find me on LinkedIn or the Frog Recruitment website. But anyway, thanks for listening, and all the very best.
Thank you, Jack. Really good, interesting points there. I think it's really important to be prepared, and you've given some really good ideas about that, which is great. Often when we have someone who's been going forward for a role, they're going to have an interview, we invite them to have a chat with us to go through some of the things that Jack has talked about, and especially in government sector roles, it's very much around the STAR approach. You've got to make sure that you answer in the right way, so people get the right understanding of your background. It's your opportunity to really push yourself, but it's being, as Jack has said, being you. You're not going to be anyone else, but we would like you to make sure that you think about being the best version of you and showing the strengths that are relevant for that role. So really good advice. Thanks, Jack. And I've seen some of that before somewhere. I'm not quite sure where that's come from you, but I'll look forward to using it in the future. Right, now, so what we're going to do is we've got a few questions, and looking at them, so I'm just going back up here. So there's one from Emily. Well, I jumped the gun there, but again, I think. So we've got some questions, and the first one I think we'll throw out to and it's from Emily. It's formed, or wait until after. For that one, I think I'll answer that one if you guys don't mind. So with that one, I think it really depends. At the moment, we're in that flux period. So if it's already happening, interviews happening, that process is going, that'll be fine. I think mostly a lot of things will be on hold until the government is formed and we know what's going on. So it's kind of, if you're in a process, it's probably still going to keep on going. If you're not, but you're applying, then there could be some flux with that. So that's that one. Now there's one there from Ava, and she says she's just moved to New Zealand, back home, had many contract jobs for a few weeks. Should I bother to include them in her CV? So Chitra, do you want to answer that one for us?
Sure. So it really depends on what kind of contract jobs you've done overseas and what kind of work you're looking for in New Zealand. So if it's relevant to the jobs you're applying for, it's definitely good to mention it and expand on it. But if it's not relevant, you can just give the title and how long you were employed and where you were employed, rather than going into too much detail.
Okay. And Ava's got another one there too, which is, what do you think of this one?
Would it be considered? I don't think it would be considered inappropriate. Usually it's good to do it beforehand, before you apply, but it's not inappropriate. It's just about how you approach people. Networking is very common in New Zealand, so I don't think people would think it's inappropriate. You can just, the way you phrase it would make a difference.
Yeah, so perhaps if we reframe that in that, fine to connect, you need to be appropriate about what you're actually asking when you're making that connection, and try not to be too enthusiastic or aggressive about that approach. It's hello, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I've applied for the job, look forward to hearing kind of scenario. Is that what you think?
Yeah, or if you have any questions, you can ask those as well. But yeah, just be appropriate and respectful in your approach.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. And next one is Aisha. So, Zaf, do you want to answer this one? You're on mute.
Thank you, Peter. Cool. Looks like so the question is just about transitioning from a temporary job into a permanent job within Frog. Aisha, great question. To answer that, no, there shouldn't be, well, there certainly wouldn't be a negative impact or a negative change in terms of the job search. It would just be a matter of making sure that you remain connected with the right consultant to ensure that your job search opportunities are maximized. And the best way to go about that would be to just let whoever you're currently dealing with, or the previous person from Frog that you were dealing with, just let them know that, hey, your job search has changed a bit and you're now looking at some new things. And if that consultant cannot help you or is not the best person to help you, they will make sure that you do get connected with the best person to support your new job search.
Great. Thanks, Zaf. And the last question there we're going to answer today. Jack, do you want to do that one?
Yeah, sure. So would you say there's more advantages interviewing in person than virtual, or vice versa? Yeah, look, there's advantages to both of them in their different way. So virtually, first of all, big advantage is time. You don't have to travel anywhere. It's quick and efficient to jump online on a Teams call and interview that way. Yeah, there's no costs to it. However, the downfall of virtual, and obviously the advantage of in person, is that you get to sit down with the person, interact with them. You get to pick up on their body language as well, and it's a better, I guess, profile you gain of the person both ways, between the client and candidate to client, and you sort of can figure out if it's something that you really want to work with, and you can get a better visual on them and what you're looking for. But yeah, they both have the advantages. I think it's always good to meet in person to find out what they're like as a person, first of all, before looking into skills and all the rest of it. But virtual is definitely very important as well in terms of speed and cost, to get that original conversation on the table.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I think it's really important that ideally you'd want to do in person first, and then virtual would be second. So there's another one. Chitra, do you want to answer? There's another couple of questions here. I think we'll just do those ones and then we'll call it a day. So do we do the next one, Chitra?
Which one is?
You're on mute too. Yeah.
What's your advice about content and length of cover letters? Yeah. So I would say cover letters, personally, I prefer them to be one page, not longer than that. And people lose interest if anything is too long. That the same thing goes for CVs. It's good to keep them concise and to the point. And content, it's you need to tailor it to the job you're applying for. So tell about yourself and experience and the skills you bring. You can go into a bit more detail if you need to compared to your CV, whereas you might just mention a skill there. You can describe it a bit more and also mention your transferable skills. So yeah, just tailoring it to the job you're applying for and keeping it concise and clear would be the most important thing.
Okay, and there's one there from Chris that I think I could answer. And so what are your tips for virtual interview on Zoom, Teams, background lighting and audio? So I have a thing about background and position of cameras. So we interviewed for a senior comms role 18 months ago, and I tell the story to anyone that will listen. So if you've heard it, I apologise. But in terms of the screen, I think your screen's got to be up high, so it's looking as if you're looking face to face. At times you see even people on TV being interviewed in the news, and you can see up their nose. I mean, no one wants to see up your nose. So make sure the screen height is good. The background's really important as well. Don't have it in your home office where you've got a whole lot of like sports memorabilia and things there. Make it look, put a background on it if appropriate. So, and treat it, you have to be a little bit more energetic in a online meeting than an in-person one. So you have to smile, always try and look and go, am I looking like a grumpy old man or am I smiling? So hopefully I'm smiling more than I'm looking grumpy today. So really important to those sort of things. So, and is there anything? I think that will be it. I think there's might be one, well, there's one more question there from, can you bring that up, Jacob? Yeah, this one. So, Zaf, do you want to talk about this one for us?
Yes, I was hoping you'd pick me, Peter. So, Arav, looks like you are wanting to look for a new job, currently based in Auckland, but considering coming down to Wellington. And the question is around when would be the best time to start looking for that? I would answer your question with another question, Arav, and say, if you had the right job put in front of you today, would you accept it? And I think if the answer is yes, that's an indication that you're ready to move into a new position, and I would encourage you to start looking. If you're not in a position to be able to accept the job in Wellington, that starts within the next few weeks, then I might urge you to look, but just be cautious about which jobs you are applying for. So it all comes down to your personal situation. If you can start a job in Wellington in the near future, then be applying. If that's not the case, then perhaps hold off, but still be keeping an eye on what the job market in Wellington looks like until you're in a position to be able to apply and start a role if offered that job.
Right. Thank you for that, Zaf, and thanks for Chitra, Zaf and Jack for helping out today. Thank you for tuning in. Hope we've given you some good information, and we'd love to hear from you.